Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Council and Committee for the Town of Petawawa to order for February 9th, 2026. Welcome to members of Council, staff, and our special guests in the studio audience. We'll start this meeting off this evening with the reading of the land acknowledgement, and this evening it's Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Petawawa Town Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Omama-Wanini Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Omama-Wanini people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibilities in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 calls to action. Calls to action number 85. We call upon the Aboriginal People's Television Network as an independent, non-profit broadcaster with programming by, for, and about Aboriginal peoples to support reconciliation, including but not limited to 1, continuing to provide leadership in programming and organizational culture that reflects the diverse cultures, languages, and perspectives of Aboriginal peoples, and 2, continuing to develop media initiatives that inform and educate the Canadian public and connect Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Canadians. Recent progress. Aboriginal People's Television Network is responsible for this response to call for action number 85.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on any of these matters? That brings us to our public meeting this evening. So we have a public meeting concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application Z-194, part of lots 21 and 22, concession 7, 3283, Petawawa Boulevard. So I'd like to call this public meeting to order. The zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted by JP2G Consultants Incorporated on behalf of Lisa and Lloyd Bowman. If approved, the application will allow the existing building to be used for a professional office for an outpatient counseling service business, offering mental health services, family support, and vocational return to work counseling. I'd like to request our planner to confirm that notice of public meeting has been given.
Notice has been provided as required under the Planning Act.
Thank you. And have there been any written comments received regarding the application?
Responses have been received from 3 public bodies. Enbridge Gas responded that they did not object to the proposed application, however reserve the right to amend or remove development conditions. The County Renfrew Public Works and Engineering Department responded that they had no comments or concerns with the proposal, and the Renfrew County Joint Transportation Consortium also responded that they had no comments or objections to the amendment. No other written comments were received from either other public bodies or the public.
Thank you. And now I'll ask Melanie if you could explain the purpose of the amendment.
So the subject property is at 3283 Petawawa Boulevard and is about 0.3 of an acre in size. It's a corner lot fronting on Wilbur Street, Petawawa Boulevard, and Fred Street. Access to the property is off of Fred Street. The subject property contains an existing dwelling, a garage, and 2 sheds. And the property is serviced by municipal water and sewer services. The purpose and the effect of the amendment is to rezone it from a residential 1 to a residential 1 exception zone, to permit a professional office for an outpatient counseling service business offering mental health services, family support, and vocational return to work counseling. This would occur in the existing dwelling building, and that building cannot, the footprint of that building cannot expand. The amendment also establishes site-specific parking provisions applicable to the permitted use. A plan and justification report was prepared by JP2G Consultants to support the amendment.
Okay, I'll ask if the applicant is present and if they wish to make any opening comments or support the application in any way.
So Catherine, a representative from JP2G, agent for the owners, is present and available to address any comments or questions.
Thank you, and now I'll ask that you explain the process, please.
There is a 20-day appeal period for this application. However, changes to the Planning Act have altered the appeal rights. Zoning bylaw amendments may only be appealed by specified persons, public bodies, and the registered owner of the land to which the amendment applies. Members of the public generally, including adjacent landowners and ratepayer groups, do not fall within the definition of a specified person or public body, and therefore are not entitled to appeal the municipality's approval of the bylaw. They may, however, speak to the application during this meeting so that council can consider their comments in advance of deciding upon the proposed amendment.
Okay, this is a public meeting, so is there anybody in the audience that wishes to comment or ask questions on the application? Okay, I see none. Are there any questions from members of council on the application? Okay. I guess, since there are no questions, I will now declare the public meeting closed. Thank you for coming, Catherine, and thanks, Melanie. Okay, moving right along. Next, we'll go to the Public Works Department monthly activity report for January. Chris, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor Service and members of council. I seem to have messed up my order in my report a little bit, so if it's okay with everybody, I'll go through the usual parts of the report and then come back to the game break update at the end. That's okay? All right, so we'll start off with 2026 goals and objectives. So certainly from a public works standpoint, we're excited for this new year and the opportunities to come. I do have some goals and objectives that I wanted to bring before council. Certainly one of the biggest ones is to continue to implement and expand the use of work orders. This is something that's been long sought after in our department. The Ontario Clean Water Agency, of course, as we know, uses work orders. Many other municipalities do as well. And it's due time that we started to get on board this change. So I have my public works manager and civic properties manager fostering this change. And we have full confidence that the results will show improved efficiency in our implementation of staff resources, better analysis, which will be transferred to council, better analysis of staff allocations and areas to focus maintenance, fuel savings, and improved service delivery for residents, as well as greater transparency for regulatory compliance. Second goal and objective is empowering staff. So as we all know, we have a small dedicated staff at Public Works. That's certainly not something I want to change. I think in the future we will see certain staff hires to augment. But for me as director, I think it's really important to empower staff and train staff so that they can take on new challenges and different roles. I don't want what we see in larger municipalities, which is what I consider pigeonhole staff, where they're very focused on one task. I don't want that to happen in our department. I want our staff to be flexible, be able to show initiative, and take on new challenges. And the key to that is good training. Next up is our water and wastewater rate study. It's been an ongoing item for the last couple of years, so certainly we want to get that finished in 2026 through our partners at Watson and Associates. And I know Trevor, Woodkey, and the new treasurer are working hard at seeing this through. As well, asset management plan update for Ontario regulatory requirements. We are a bit behind on this, and this year in 2026 we have plans to see that through to completion. It's really important that we bring this all together. We have all the information. We just need to get the asset management plan complete. And then what I hope to do is once Public Works has completed the plan, turn it over to the finance department, because really it's a financial document and it's used each year for budget planning. And then our fifth goal was the commissioning and final acceptance of net zero. Again, this has been a long-term project, and we are on the cusp of completion, so I'm really excited. This is our year to finally throw the switch and get this process going, and start to see some tangible results for the town and for the taxpayer who's backed this project for the last number of years. And there's a number 6 that I didn't put in the report, but I felt was important. So continue to maintain and improve the town of Petawawa infrastructure to best position the town for current and future growth. And we will all be a part of realizing this goal during budget deliberations later this week. I think that's really important. We have a really good team here. Relationship with council has been great. So certainly I think 2026 will be no different. It's going to be a great year. All right. So under capital works, our town hall office renovation is complete. I believe we have substantial completion. All the paperwork's been finalized. There is one adjustment left to do with the entrance security glass, but I believe the accessible counter is complete now, so that project is finally behind us. So I wanted to send a special thanks out to Ted Marcotte, our manager of Civic Properties. He really did a great job. It's been a long process, so he's held the architecture company, the construction company, and the sub-trades to account. And in a long process like that, we tend to get fatigued. Maybe you tend to give in on certain things, but that didn't happen. Ted never gave up. He held them to account right to the very end. If they were going to get something, if it was in the project and it was a deliverable, it was getting done. So I really appreciate that. He did a great job. Under water and sewer projects, our disinfection byproduct study, we're making really good headway there. So there'll be a final report. I said late February, but it's probably going to be March. So basically we've had 3 meetings. One meeting was with Stantec, Aqua, and the town, where we've gotten down to a short list of 2 treatment options to deal with our disinfection byproduct issue. Then we had a follow-up meeting with Aqua and the town, and then one other meeting with Stantec. So it looks like we have it down now to one candidate to deal with this issue we've been having. And as well, I mentioned in my report the stress test and capacity study that I hope to bring back for budget deliberations later this week. This is a key component. I hope to get it completed in 2026. And the reason for that is with the growth that's happening in the town and the growth that's projected on base, both north and south town sites, I think we are getting close to kickstarting the environmental assessment and the process for a planned expansion within the next 10 years. And by that I mean completed within the next 10 years. So I figure all goes well by the end of 2026, we'll have a roadmap to bring to council to deal with this, but we're getting closer to having to face that reality. Okay, just so everybody knows, there'll be more to come on that, and there'll be more on the budget later this week as well. But it's not a bad thing. Our town is growing, so we want to make sure we're positioned for this growth, and that's my job. Okay, so under road construction and road infrastructure projects, the completed projects list is getting longer, and next month we'll be able to add the town hall reno to that. And as soon as those poles come in, we'll be able to knock the PXO off. So that's pretty much it for 2025. And now we're into just 2026 projects. And as you see there, we have the Norman Street in and out for access to the Comfort Station and Algonquin Trail. This project was awarded to BEI Construction on February 4th, and it's being funded through the Canada Community Building Fund. And that's part A of the construction, and part B will be brought for council for deliberation later this week. So under operations, just some kudos to Amanda O'Brien. She has recently completed her municipal administration program through the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks, and Treasurers of Ontario. So that's a big step forward for Amanda, and along with all her other skills, she brings a really great background and a lot of capability to the Public Works Department. kind of hitting on what I had mentioned earlier, the flexibility of our staff to take on lots of challenges. Under winter maintenance, we had another busy month in January, as you see from the chart provided. And under maintenance activities, we had hydrant clearing in January. We had a lot of snow removal completed in January for increasing snow storage and also taking care of sightline issues for residents. We also removed snow at the point to facilitate the fire department to complete ice water rescue training on January 14th. The item on January 16th with regards to the Preview Road water issue, that seems to have rectified itself. We suspect it was a beaver dam issue that was causing the road to flood a little bit, but it's gone away. Then we had a busy month for social media with waste collection updates, snow hauling notices, our transportation feasibility survey, waste collection updates, and of course our news releases for the public regarding the water main break. Under civic properties, I'm getting some really good feedback on the entertainment system that was installed at the Civic Center and Banquet Hall, as well as new blinds, so that's good to hear. Mayor Service shared an email earlier today that the trivia, Cabin Fever trivia night was a big success, and people didn't have to get out of their seats as much to go and look at the screen, so that's good to hear as we modernize and update our facility. It's good feedback. And then under number 4, waste management, Trevor and Amanda provided a little update there with regards to our non-eligible sources. We are managing that transition nicely. Under number 5, water and sanitary, you see that due to staffing changes, there is no update available for January, and that leads me segues nicely into my introduction. Jimmy, you want to come forward? So I'd like to introduce the Ontario Clean Water Agency's new Senior Operations Manager, Jimmy Moens. Welcome, Jimmy. So I met with Jimmy earlier today, and I forgot to mention that he'll be coming on a quarterly basis to council for timely updates. So Jimmy, I forgot to mention that. But, council wants to see you more, so you'll be joining me more frequently. But it's great to have Jimmy along. I've been working with Jimmy now for a number of years, so I'm really familiar with him. It's pretty much a seamless transition, I think, with Brad Sweet's retirement, and Jimmy just brings a wealth of knowledge to Aqua and of course to the town. So we're happy to have him. And with that, we'll go into our Petawawa Boulevard at Birch Street main break update. So I know you all have the report, but I'll briefly go through some of the points just in case some of our public viewers are watching at home. But on January 27th, we experienced a main break on Petawawa Boulevard near the intersection of Birch Street. And this break caused a large rupture in the road, significant heaving, and resulted in the boulevard being closed and detours set up between Victoria Street and Paquette Road. And the OPP assisted with the traffic control until the closure was in place. As well, the county assisted us on this. And the weather for this main break was terrible throughout the entire process. So it was minus 20 daytime highs of in the low teens, minus in the teens, and every night was well into minus 20. So very tough conditions to work in for this main break. So at the start of the main break, it was confirmed that it was the 450 millimeter or 18-inch asbestos cement water main. And this main is a critical piece of infrastructure. Essentially, it's a 20-inch main that comes out of the water plant up on the north side, town site, and then it reduces to an 18-inch, I believe, just over the bridge. So this main is servicing the town essentially with water, or large, pretty much the whole town. It's going everywhere.
It's filling our main tower, the town tower up on Woodland Crescent.
Right. So this water main is 65 years old, And I noted in my remarks that we haven't experienced a break in over 20 years. So I just want to clarify that the last break was actually a 6-inch service line that connected to the 18-inch main. So technically, we've never had a break on this main since it was installed. So we had Aqua working until 2:30 a.m. on the 28th of January to isolate the main and reduce water flow to allow for excavation to commence. And this process did take a lot longer than anticipated. And I thought maybe at this time, Jimmy could provide a little bit of extra information on that.
So the water main line, you don't exercise the valves like you would on the smaller streets because we have high lifts running. There's lots more variables. This line is plus 60 years old, so if you're going to start touching these major valves, you're going to have more problems. So the bigger, older valves we tend to just leave alone, and to orchestrate that, you got to have high lifts off, and summer is the best time, and our high lifts never shut off in the summer, so it's pretty tough to do. So we typically leave the major valves alone, because as you can see, Mons Avenue, which we have a leaking valve now, is from operating that valve during the water main break. So now we got to keep playing with it to try and get it to seat properly, and if not, we'll have to do some more repairs and take them out. So that's why we typically do them valves alone.
Okay. Okay, so when we did get the water main isolated, we had approximately 16 to 20 residents and businesses within the break area without water. And this did not include Pinehurst Trailer Park. All the residents in the trailer park unfortunately lost water due to the break. And once isolated, the main repair took 24 hours and involved excavation directly beside an 8-inch high pressure gas main. So the entire process was slow going. You can't just dig really quick around an 8-inch gas main, and nor can you do that around the water main itself. Asbestos cement pipe is very long lasting, but it also doesn't like to be disturbed. So when you're excavating around it, you have to be very careful not to hit it. It's when we talk about asbestos, if people understand, asbestos is okay as long as you're not touching it and you're leaving it alone. So it's very similar with AC pipe. So while the excavation was ongoing, staff from Aqua and Public Works were locating repair parts that we had in stock at the Public Works Department. But again, and this was new to me, so I was under the impression we're good. We have pipe, we have couplers, we have band clamps, but an 8-inch pipe doesn't always mean that it's just an 18-inch pipe. There are actually 3 different outside diameters of an 18-inch pipe. So that's something I learned as soon as this happened. There are slight variations in pipe size, and you really can't figure out the exact size pipe until you have it fully excavated and you can measure it with what's called a pipe tape. That was also new to me. So once the pipe was exposed in the evening of the 28th, we brought in 4 high-lift water pumps along with a vac truck to control the water flow, which was still too high for contractors to enter the excavation area. And it was at this time that we had to shut off the McDonald's restaurant. It was another 6-inch feeder line. And we needed to do that to drop the pressure within the main further so that we could cut the pipe open to exact the repairs, because once you cut that pipe open, there's so much water going into the excavation area that you can't send staff down there to work. So you have to get the water flow shut down, the pumps to control what flow is still flowing in the pipe, because you cannot shut the pipe off entirely or you lose pressure in your system, and that's when you go to a boil water advisory. So when people say it took a long time, there's a process here that really takes coordination. Every valve, there were 19 valves within this area. Every time you move a valve, change a valve, close a valve, you're shutting off a different area of town, or you're affecting the flow within that 18-inch main. So once we had that all sorted out, the trench box was installed, and we found out that our pipe didn't match the couplers. So fortunately, we had good support from our friends here in town. So we had McRae Construction helped us with one coupler, as well Do-All Construction had 2 couplers. And between everybody involved and all the parts we had, we were good. The initial plan was to use a band plan, which was a quicker repair. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that due to the way the break had occurred and the wear that had occurred in the pipe. We had to go to cutting it and replacing a section of the pipe and 2 new couplers. Again, it took longer, but I believe the town, JP2G, and all the office staff, that was the right repair, and more permanent repair. Okay? So, water was turned back onto the distribution system at approximately 2 a.m. on the 29th. The excavation site was backfilled. The repair area was capped with emulsified asphalt, and the boulevard was reopened to traffic at 9:30 a.m. on the 29th. So to follow up on this, we hosted a meeting at Public Works on February 2nd with office staff and representatives from JP2G Consultants for a debrief meeting. So my first point, what occurred on the 27th was, by all accounts, a serious emergency for the town. I have never in my 21 years dealt with a main break of that size. And I don't know, Jimmy hasn't either. So it's not common, and I hope it never happens again. But you learn a lot through these civic emergencies. And there was a lot of good and positive that came out of it. So first off, our communication during the entire event was excellent. Town staff communicated with office staff was top-notch. Communications with the County of Renfrew, the OPP for traffic control assistance, the Renfrew County District Health Unit, residents and businesses affected by the water main break and subsequent water service disruption, with bottled water being delivered to all throughout the water service disruption. So communication was really, really good. All the agencies involved and our contractors worked tirelessly to rectify this emergency and work through extreme cold temperatures, as I mentioned earlier. Our Public Works office and boardroom served as an emergency center. And really, I think late at night and in the early morning of the 28th is where the staff all came together, warmed up, put the maps back up on our large screen TV, and managed to really realize, okay, we've got the plan now, went out, executed. So it worked really good. So our Public Works office was excellent for dealing with this emergency. Like I said before, great care was needed to avoid a pressure loss in our system, which would have triggered a boil water advisory in the break area. And this was avoided. I also wanted to thank JP2G, who offered support throughout the event. Kyle Dixon was on site in support. We also had Brandon Harkins, who was helping us with some mapping resources, and there was no charge for the support. And that's great teamwork. So, lessons learned. The biggest lesson is our mapping resources. So this is something we've been working on for the past 6 years. The best way to explain it to council is we have all the data. The town has the data, JP2G has the data, even D&D has some of the data because the water system, that's where it all started, was for D&D, Garrison I should say. The biggest thing now is to bring it all together. So we have this data, it's all in different places, and it's how to bring it together so that when we do have one of these emergencies, we can efficiently get the data we need to make proper decisions. So we have our new Links Field Asset Management System, and that's where all this data is going to go. The town needs to own its own data, and for too long we haven't. We've relied on the town having some, or we'll call JP2G, or Aqua has some data, or and it's not owned in one source. So that's critically important. We have to put it all together. The town has to own and host the data, and our other user groups will be able to use it. like Aqua. So that's going to be done this year with our new Linksfield system, where we're going to have layers within the system for everything from our roads networks, sidewalks, pathways, water distribution system, hydrants, booster stations, sewer systems, and force mains, storm systems, storm management ponds, and street lightings. So there'll be mapping layers for each of those assets, and easy to identify them, easy to find them, GPS located. Everything there is designed for improved efficiency and being able to react better to civic emergencies. The other item that we've learned and we need to look at is our next Aqua contract, which comes due in 2027. Jimmy and I have already had some preliminary discussions just to make sure that we have the proper staffing at the Ontario Clean Water Agency. The last contract, I believe, was 10 years.
Yeah.
So the town is changing, and it's changed over the past 10 years, and it's going to grow further. So we want to make sure when we look at our next contract that we have the right resources in place to make sure that our maintenance programs and how we maintain that water and sewer distribution systems, the water distribution and the sanitary collection system, we want to make sure that they're being maintained properly because they are growing every year. And as well, we are ordering 2 new couplers, extra band clamp, just to make sure, not that I ever want to take them out of storage. And as well, Jimmy and I spoke today, and he's also looking at ordering a couple of 20-inch repair clamps, just in case we ever have an issue on the north side town site where the main is even bigger. So those are the lessons learned. I think overall, everything went really well. You never want to hear that you have to turn the water off to residents. It really, it hits you, it does. This past weekend was really cold again. I was saying to Councillor Driscoll before the meeting that I was worried all weekend, but I hope we don't have another main break. And in my career, like I said, I've never dealt with a break like this. This winter seems to be, there's been some big main breaks around the county. Whitewater region's experienced a few, Deep River's had a few. The city of Pembroke has had a really big windbreak as well. So unfortunately, it hit us. But overall, I was very proud of the department, our Aqua support, the contractors on site, and we got through it as a team. So Jimmy, I'm going to turn it over to you for your synopsis. Go ahead.
A couple of things to expand on. Chris mentioned about the 20-inch line. So a few days after the break, Garrison Petawawa Waterworks team contacted me, and they want to have a sit down and go over things on what we've learned and how we move forward. They want to comprise an inventory. Because some things they do on the base and some things we do. So they want to sit down and go over things and make sure we're not, they want to make sure we're moving in the right direction and have the right inventory. Another thing Chris mentioned is about stock. Right now it's in one person's head at the garage, and he's very good at it, Peter LaPointe. But he does take holidays and he's not always there, and so we're working on having an inventory on paper so that when we get into this emergency, you're not relying on one person that could be away for the day or a week or whatever. So those are 2 things that Aqua took away from the briefing, is having that stock on paper and working better with the Garrison Petawawa. They've kind of grown apart from us over the years, but they seem to want to connect and be on the same page, which is a good step in the right direction.
Good. All right. And with that, happy to take questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that detailed report. I'm sure if members of the public are watching or will watch in the future, they'll appreciate the breakdown on how everything rolled out there. First up, congratulations, Jimmy, on your successful candidacy for the Senior Operations Manager of Aqua. You've been there a while, so I'm sure you're gonna seamlessly fit into the role and do a great job down there.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to working with you for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
That's funny.
For sure.
And again, just on the water main break, congratulations to, you talked about the teamwork, so congratulations to everybody that was involved, Aqua, Town of Petawawa, JP2B, all of our contractors. I'm sure the county was in there somehow too. Yep. Since it was their road. But it was good to see everybody coming together. And I know these days in our society, everybody wants everything to happen fast. And if it doesn't happen fast, well, there must be something wrong. But to get, a water main break of that magnitude and where it was and all the complications to get it done that fast, I think was commendable. So congratulations to everybody involved. Okay, we'll open up for questions. Councillor Disney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say congratulations definitely to both your staff. I had a good chat with Teddy the next day after this, and I couldn't hear more about how well everyone worked together. And definitely in an emergency situation, it can be very difficult, and you don't have everything written down all the time, so having to figure stuff out on the fly, very hard, especially with that magnitude on the busiest road in the county. It definitely adds a little more pressure, especially when it's -20. So great job, and I really like your lessons learned and having our mapping and everything. I think that's a really good idea. It will be way more seamless for every party involved. So I think there's always things to learn after it, and I think we definitely listed some very, very good ones, and hopefully that'll continue. On the other side, for the information of the ratepayers, because things like these do cost money, do you have an estimated cost of what this main break would be?
Yes, right now we're right around 60,000.
Okay, thank you, Ron. I think for that, it's not terrible. Things have to happen, and when you're having something like that, it costs what it costs when the water's flowing over the 18-inch main at -20, right? You have to get it fixed. So great job again, and hopefully we don't have another one anytime soon.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jimmy, congratulations, and I'm glad to hear also that we're going to have some more reporting more frequently from down at the plant. And I sent an email right away to Chris and the CAO and the mayor. Very good work, and I really like to see those partnerships, and I'd like to hear about the future vision of the mapping for sure, being able to pull that data and having, people have to know and how to react. And everything was done good. It's so nice to see everyone working together. So from the different vendors, the construction companies, and the town, and everyone working together for that common goal. So good work, and thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Sedgwick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to both Chris and Jim for the report, and for sure as a main feeder into our town, the expediency at which the issue was resolved is actually quite remarkable given the nature of it. Just two things in the report. Your Linksfield platform, is that a platform that we already own and are just building on, or is that going to be coming as part of the budget item or whatnot? And then my second question on that is, you said that at one point you had to go to McDonald's and you had to turn off some more water. So just sort of wondering how that communication process went with the businesses. I know I had a meeting with one of the business, somebody at a business, and they were very pleased with the way that they were told and how the information rolled out and that kind of stuff. So I just am curious as to how that unfolded. Thanks.
Certainly. So the Linksfield question, so that system was implemented in 2025. So what we're doing is we're phasing out our CGIS system and our street logic system. So the cost savings from those systems is essentially those costs are gone, and then we'll just have the one platform. Before we had, like I said, we had data in a lot of different places. We had JP2G had data, Public Works had data, we had data in our CGIS mapping software. Some was in our street logic software, and Aqua had data. So now we're consolidating that all into one platform. So there's already cost savings by going to one. And then as far as the McDonald's, did I answer that one okay? And then as far as the McDonald's, so I believe, that was around between 9 and 10 p.m. on the 28th. We had to shut down a 6-inch main to lower the pressure some more in the 18-inch main. So Aqua communicated with the staff at McDonald's at that time. They simply closed up and went home. But then there was some subsequent conversation that went to the mayor, and then he followed up with me, and I was able to communicate with I believe it's the manager, and communicated with her about exactly what had happened and why we had to shut the McDonald's down. But the water was back on for them to start their morning shift, so it wasn't for too long. But again, unfortunately, I realized that it impacts business, so.
Yes, thank you. It was a fluid situation. Decisions had to be made for all the right reasons, and the communication process works. So that's really great. And I guess just in regards to the mapping resources, yeah, we talked about this in our council table, I think when I first joined the team, and it was all over the place. So this is a really good thing for us. I mean, we should own our data. We should have access to our data, and just like you say, the layering is just going to make other issues and other outcomes just that much more efficient and whatnot. So good on you guys. Thank you.
Welcome.
Councilor Kernan.
Thank you for your service, and first off, congratulations, Jimmy. Look forward to seeing you here on a 3-month basis, was it? That's
Yes.
Excellent. And Chris, thanks very much for putting together that report. That is fantastic. Love the goals that you've got set for 2026. Love the summary of the water main break. That was, basically you're coming to this meeting fully aware of what was going on, and that's really good. So congratulations to the entire team for a job well done. And just a question about the valves. It seems that the valves ceased to do their job after a while, and everything else in the system is still working. Like, if we're installing new equipment today, are these valves something that, okay, they're much better today than they were 30 years ago, and that won't happen, or it won't happen nearly as quick, or?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent.
So inside these valves, there's rubber in there. So what happens over time is they lose they're not as soft, they crack, all kinds of issues that we can have with them. But it's major expenses to replace these valves. So, and that's why I said on the main lines, you typically just leave them alone. As soon as you start playing with them, you create more problems. So, as roads get done through the town, then that's when you look at replacing some of these valves and moving forward. There is a roundabout coming in down the road in Petawawa, so that was one of the things in the debriefing is, okay, how far are they going, and can we put a new valve in there to make it work better? There's one other thing that I just thought of. On that 18-inch line, these valves are 12-inch. Why that is, no one seems to know. And the mapping is from 1961 DND issue. So why they put 12-inch valves on an 18-inch line, no one has an idea. So it restricts flow a little bit, but we'll have to look at that down the road as putting in 18-inch valves. Anytime that we're in the area, that'll be the time to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I should just add one item. We have had a meeting, the county, the town, and JP2G regarding the 2 valves at Momes, one of which is leaking. So the purpose of that meeting was to discuss the roundabout and to make sure that if we have any infrastructure that needs to be upgraded, we do it before they construct the roundabout. So we're probably looking at replacing 2 valves at Momes and getting those repairs out of the way so that when they do their roundabout construction, we've upgraded those components and they're not going to leak or cause us any issues. So we're already forward thinking and planning for that construction.
Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations on your, this might be a bit repetitive, on your successful rise into the manager position, or sorry, the senior position. The report was excellent. It was really good. I liked all the detail that you put into this, Chris, so that we were aware of it. Just one question. With it being with the asbestos cement, was that required to be cut? Was that part of this, or am I just misreading this or misinterpreting it?
Yeah, so early in Chris's report says we were going to try and put a band over that. So there was a gap where the break in the pipe was. So the hope was that it would be small enough that we could just cover it with a band, but it ended up being wider than we thought. So by putting a band on, you're open to problems in a year or two, or who knows when. So we felt that this is too big a job to have to do it again next year or the year after. So we had to cut the pipe. We had pipe out at the works garage that we could put in there, and the two couplers on each side of it. So yes, we did have to cut it, but they wear masks, and there's a protocol for them to do it because it's asbestos. Yeah.
Yeah, follow-up.
Just a comment then. Okay, yeah, so it had no effect on the actual water going through once the pipe was first cut?
No.
So it's just the, for the workers that are in it?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions or comments on the report? I'd just like to comment on the new, well, I guess it's not new, but it's good to hear that Garrison is liaising a little bit more with Aqua and with the town. We know that they have I don't want to call it a separate system, but they have a system up there, but it is tied with ours. So anything that happens up there does have a downstream effect on us. And we know that there's an awful lot of building going up there and an awful lot of road work and repairs. So it's good to hear that anytime something's happening up there in terms of water and sewer, that we're aware down here. Love to hear about the new work order program. I think that's great in terms of efficiency and communication. I was just wondering who has that, like once a work order is put in place, who has access to that? Who can see it?
So maybe I'll just provide a simple example. So after the winter season, my past experience was to, for example, say to your staff, go out and check for bent signs. So essentially they would drive every street unless you had, a few written notes of where you had seen bent signs. So what we're hoping with the work order software is once the work order is generated, it goes to the laptop in the truck, and the staff, when they're sent out on maintenance, will select, for example, the sign layer, and those sign work orders will be itemized by date, by priority in the truck. So instead of the staff essentially driving around looking for issues, the priorities are right there for them. They go to each site, address the repair, complete the work order on the laptop. It's kicked right back to the manager in real time. You can even take a photo of the completed repair. You can take a photo of the bent sign. I just use that as an example. You can use that for potholes, trees down, sign repairs. As I mentioned, essentially anything, guide rail repairs, anything that we see within the road allowance that requires maintenance. So the whole idea is efficiency of repairs, and staff being able to, instead of always having the information on a piece of paper generated by the foreman or the supervisor, it's on the laptop in the vehicle. You can even send the work order from the office right to the vehicle while the guys are doing the work. So it will be more efficient, and it will, like I said, it will save fuel because the staff are directed right to the work instead of surveying for work, which was the old way of doing things. That's really the big plan. And then of course, on the regulatory side, for minimum maintenance standards, you do have certain time frames for these repairs. For example, potholes, depending on the depth, you do have a certain time frame to repair a pothole. So by generating the work order, that time frame is kick-started, and when the staff prepare it, it comes back, and senior staff know that they've repaired the issue within the maintenance standard. So it's a regulatory compliance tool as well. And it will, another big component is being able to report to council and show quantitatively how our staff are performing and whether we need more staff. That's another big tool here, is planning for the future, and do we have the proper tools and the staff to meet the demands for the residents.
So just for clarification, so once a work order is complete, the staff who completed it will hit a button that says complete, and that gets instantly sent back to the manager or the director,
Supervisor and manager.
Does it ding? Or they have to check?
I will make sure there is a chime of some sort.
And congratulations again. I know you congratulated Ted on all the work he did with the town hall renovation, but I know you were heavily involved as well yourself as director. It was great to see today when I came in that the glass shield was up, the counter was fixed, everything was done. So it's good to finally come in and know that there's not something that they still have to come and complete. And it looks great. And I talked to staff over there and they said it's very functional and they love the system. So, and I haven't heard any public comments back about public coming to the counter, but I haven't heard any complaints either. So.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I guess it's all going well. Okay, any further questions or comments? Then I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the Public Works Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Chris and Jimmy.
Thanks.
Next, we have the Economic Development Monthly Activity Report for January. Christine was unable to make it today, so Colin Howard is pinch hitting.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Through you, the council. Yes, Christine's unfortunately feeling a little bit under the weather, so she asked if I could deliver her 2 reports this evening. So on her monthly report, I'll just highlight a few key things that I saw in the report, and happy to take any questions if council has any, and hopefully direct them towards Christine when she's back, if I can answer them this evening. But under Industrial Park, Christine met with a site developer this past month in regards to the expression of interest that was issued from Garris and Petawawa, and she had 2 meetings with landowners also in regards to the expression of interest. And she has met with, I did a phone call, with a new prospective business looking for available land in the park. So there'll be more to come on that. Under community improvement plan, she's working on a CIP application currently with the Signature Team Realty. And later on this evening, there'll be a CIP on Delbert Anther, which I will be delivering for Christine on that as well. Under business general, she had a meeting to review preliminary plans for an addition to the Victoria Plaza property. So that's good news there. The work is continuing there, and she will come forward with some more information on that in the future. This past Saturday, there was a ribbon cutting event held at the Neuro Unique World at 1 o'clock, 2147 Petawawa Boulevard, and Christine was wanted me to state that she was very pleased with the report and the turnout. It was a very successful event and a good opening for this business. Under item number 2, under communication and marketing, happy to report our website is up and running, and I want to thank Christine, Rudy, and Dawn and Kate especially for their work on this website. So it's up and running, and Rudy and Kate have been doing a lot of fine tuning on a few last minute items that have been coming, the issues that have come forward. So if there's anything else, we are in good hands there. Hopefully council likes the new website. I think it's, I love the look myself, so hopefully it's the same for our residents. Under other business, other activities, also Christine has been busy meeting with Melanie, our Director of Planning and Development, to look at the advanced work on our municipal land inventory and our strategy for disposition and development, and they will be bringing forward a report in the very near future on that to council's attention. And then Christine has listed the reports that she has done in the month of January, and I would be happy to take any questions.
Questions on the report? I guess if we have any, we'll forward them to Christine. Okay, if there are no questions, then I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Savern, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the Economic Development Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have ED-05-2026, Community Improvement Plan, 2253A, Petawawa Boulevard. Colin.
Thank you once again, Mayor Service, through you, the council. This is a CIP report for Delbert Antlers, submitted by Crystal O'Rourke, and it is for 2253A, Petawawa Boulevard, and they are looking for CIP's financial incentive for up to $5,000 for signage under the signage improvement grant. So this, Christina's worked with Crystal on this since 2025. This is the first request for this business, and they are looking to update their pylon structure on the property, replacing the signage on one of the buildings and adding signage on another. I will state that under the CIP program, there are sufficient unspent funds under the 2025 budget envelope to support this request, and I would be happy to take any questions should council have them.
Questions on the CIP report? Okay, no questions. If you're comfortable, I need a motion to move this one. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Deputy Mayor Savern, that council, under the Community Improvement Plan adopted by Bylaw 1441/21, enters into a funding agreement with Crystal O'Rourke of Delbert Antlers, authorized applicant for the commercial property located at 2253A, Petawawa Boulevard, permitting the CIP financial incentive of up to $5,000 under the signage improvement grant. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next we have the Planning and Development Monthly Activity Report for January. Melanie, you're up and brought some backup.
Add backups for the next report. So you have the monthly report before you. A few things I'll highlight is our new building inspector starts 2 weeks from today, on February 23rd. So I previously reported, I think, that they were starting either last week or this week, and there were accommodation difficulties, so they're starting on the 23rd. As Colin mentioned in Christine's report, we've been in January met with proponents planning to submit to the DMD's expression of interest for the warehouse bill. They had to submit information by January 16th, so those first couple of weeks after Christmas, we're busy with a few proponents there. January 22nd, planning staff sat in on a webinar about the new Build Canada Homes program that was announced by Prime Minister Carney in January. Unfortunately, for small municipalities like ours, the criteria are not for us. They're very steep criteria. Certain cities were named where a bulk of the money is going to those cities. There's some far north projects that are being funded. There's some of the monies for transitional housing that potentially the county will be able to leverage. And outside of that, they're looking for a significant number of units in impact. So like 10 units here, 20 units here, it's not, they're looking for thousands of units. And they're also looking for proponents to come forward with portfolios of projects. So the criteria were disappointing for us to hear that for small urban and rural, again, it's another funding program that we just don't seem to meet the criteria. Policy reviews and updates are listed. We can mark another one complete with the backyard chicken bylaw passing last week. So we continue to work on those. Next year, going to see the parkland dedication and the flood control bylaws hopefully very soon. In Appendix A, our active planning applications, I'm just going to highlight a couple things. I already mentioned backyard chickens was passed last week, so now we have the appeal period for the zoning part of that to get through. The new McCrae Quarry on Summers Road We have forwarded all the peer review reports to the proponent, so they had technical reports done. They had to pay for us to hire technical expertise to review those reports. And then they prepare a report, so all that information has been shared now, so there'll be more discussions about how to resolve comments. And the new entry on the chart is Retail B, so that's the land in between the Remax complex and Marriott Town sites. So we have a site plan submission for that land. So we have all the internal comments from the county, and we're just deciding those to be sent back to the proponent. And then once we've gone through those comments with the proponent, then I'll be bringing it to council so you can see what that looks like and provide feedback. In Appendix B, building permit report, just one thing I wanted to mention is that with the changes in development charges being deferred now for housing to occupancy, and then for rental housing in particular, it can be split over 6 payments. The first one due at occupancy, and then payments 2 to 6 every year thereafter. We're going to see that our DC building permit fees are going to be probably lower than they were in previous years, because we're not going to see that money until later in the process. So it is an interesting change that the Congress made. It was to kind of free up some cash flow for developers, but we use these fees to fund infrastructure improvements needed for growth, and we're going to see that money later. So we'll have to see how that works out over the next couple of years. And with that, I open for questions.
Thank you. Questions on the report? I'd just like to say that's very disappointing about the Building Canada Homes report. Small municipalities not being eligible for any kind of funding. It reminds me of the Housing Accelerator Fund a few years ago, where there was 2 streams and we were not, really eligible, but we're not successful in getting on either of those 2 streams. So it's great that, there's money out there and they're trying to solve the housing crisis and homelessness issues. But it's also always disappointing when a growing municipality like ours is not eligible for any of these programs. We have the same issues as the large urban centers, just on a smaller scale, but we need help too. So it's kind of disappointing. Very exciting though to hear Retail B is taking that next step forward. It'd be exciting to see the plans and learning when they might break some ground. As we know, we need a lot of new commercial opportunities for people. They're always looking for places to put a business, so this will help open up a few spots. Okay, if you're comfortable, then I need a motion to move by Councillor Driscoll, second by Councillor Carmody, that the Planning and Development Monthly Activity Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have PL-05-2026, a report on development height restrictions and the need for an aerial fire apparatus. Melanie?
Okay, I'm going to start and then Craig's going to help. So basically, in the previous official plan for the town of Petawawa, it restricted development to 4 stories. When the official plan was updated in 2024, council elected to remove that restriction so that we could entertain some development proposals a little higher than 4 stories. So from a policy perspective, that official plan opened the door. The zoning bylaw, when we update it, can open the door further to allow greater height. But we don't have the fire apparatus to support those higher stories. So in the housing needs assessment that the town of Petawawa had completed a couple of years ago, it identified kind of 3 types of housing that are lacking in the town: purpose-built rental housing, seniors housing, and found that the households experiencing the most affordability issues were 1-person and lone parent households. These are all types of housing that apartment dwelling, something with more stories, can accommodate. Also, we've heard from the Garrison and CNL their need for high numbers of housing units. Most of the demand being, again, smaller household size units like apartments. In addition to those demands and gaps in housing types in the town, we have very limited vacant land is fully serviced. And anything over 3 units has to be on full services in the town. So we've got a high demand, we've got a very small land base to support this type of housing. And that's becoming a significant limiting factor when we are looking at where apartment buildings can be built. Coupled with that, we have a lot of developers talking to us interested in apartments, and this constraint about our number of stories we can accommodate continues to be raised, and every single one of them is saying, can it be 1 or 2 more stories? So if the town was able to approve developments with a couple more stories, it would help to optimize the use of the available service land we have, plus provide more units. So that is kind of where why I decided to bring this report forward, is that these developers are continually asking for a couple more stories. We're struggling to find land for them to build on. How can we move forward with entertaining a couple more stories? And then I turn to Craig for help with what this looks like. And I'll let Craig talk about that part.
So, thank you. Good evening. So in the past, this has been brought forth to the fire department, and we've always kept it below 4 stories and below, due to the combustible materials now that these structures are being built. And I know that when we think of an aerial apparatus, we think of rescuing, and that's true, but it's also exposure protection, getting elevated water streams, and we only have 35-foot extension ladders on our trucks. So it's rule of thumb, it's 10 feet per story. So there's buildings here in the town that we can't even access the roof for our members. So looking at the technical bulletin from the fire undergraduate survey, response areas that have 5 buildings that are 3 stories or more, recommending the aerial apparatus. And we have a number here that we're over that capacity. So you can build non-combustible buildings up to 6 stories. Anything past 6 stories is non-combustible and sprinklered, and then the building codes change. So if we're looking at 4 to 5 stories, it's recommended having the aerial apparatus so that we can make rescues and make sure that we can contain the fires. The unfortunate side is we don't have an agreement with anybody except for the Garrison, which their aerial is down, it's not in service right now. We've tried for agreements with other municipalities and we weren't successful with it. So it's always been recommended that we keep our building stock at a certain height for safety. As well, if you have a 4-story building, for example, we don't have any ground ladders that are going to make it up to the 4th story. So we're going to be putting firefighters in these situations where we can't get them out if something was to happen to their means of egress. So it's a safety thing as well for our staff.
Okay, thanks Melanie and Craig. Just a question for clarity before I open it up to questions. The non-combustible and combustible, are there provincial laws or are these municipal laws in terms of when you get to a certain story, whether it's 6, 8, 10, 12, when does a builder have to go in non-combustible?
So they can build non-combustible would be 6 stories and above. They could build up to 6 stories of combustible material. And another thing to think about, the building code has regulations for inside the building to get people out. But you have fires that start outside the building with cladding, and we've seen this in China just recently. We've seen in the UK where there was over 80 people killed, where the outside of the building caught and rapidly wrapped around the building and went up. And getting elevated streams is important. So Yeah, so it's 6 stories, up to 6 stories is a combustible material, and anything past 6 stories is non-combustible.
I just want to add too that I was talking to our chief building official about this today and what the Ontario Building Code requirements are, and there's a bunch of factors as to what would be required, the size, the construction materials. There's tables with all kinds of variables, but basically the higher the stories, the more sophisticated the fire detection and suppression system requirements are in the building code.
So that's an Ontario building code, and that's non-negotiable, and municipality can't make any changes, concessions, or make it more severe. It's the code, and that's where it is. Okay, I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. You had mentioned sprinkler systems. Is that correlated with the 6th floor as well in terms of a requirement, or is that something we could do locally?
No, that is a requirement in the code. They have to have sprinkler protection. So usually it's 3 stories and above, but that's in the code. Sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Kerman.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. So I have a number of 7 or 8 things about this that are concerning to me, but certainly the first and foremost would be the cost of the apparatus itself and where are we going to put this? Do any of our buildings, are they sufficiently sized to handle an aerial? And what's the future of our prospects for a mutual aid agreement with base? Is there aerial truck, will it be fixed at some point? Or, and this is kind of what we're hoping, that a developer is going to come along that's going to build 5 or 6 stories sort of thing. You wouldn't make a $5 or $10 million investment on the chance that somebody's going to build 5 stories. And the balance of it is there's the cost recovery analysis.
Yeah, these special apparatus are expensive. So we could look at building an apparatus that's 35 to 40 feet long. The problem is Station 1 is our only best bet. The 2 stations here in the town were built for smaller apparatuses. We've outgrown them. With their town expanding, our apparatus have to expand to add equipment. So the aerial itself, we do have the height to put an aerial in there. It's the length. So they say to go by the tallest building for the size of your aerial, which would be 5 stories, right? So if we're going 6 stories, we could look at a 75 foot, but I'd recommend 100. If we put a 100-foot boom in one of our stations, we don't have a station that will house that aerial. And I would recommend that we look at going with a 100-foot or 30-meter boom. The Garrison's aerial is old. It's still out of service. I don't have an answer of when it's going to be back in service. But if we were to have an aerial ourselves, we would be able to reciprocate that aerial through mutual aid to Pembroke. We have an MOU with Garrison, but also CNL. So if we had a large structure fire, a structure that is up to 5 stories, we can actually, you're going to need more aerials to come in with elevated streams. So their apparatus is aging, and like the massive fire plant, we can't rely on neighbors. So that's something that we have to consider, if I answered your question. Is it cost or the last one we mentioned about cost? So these aerials do vary depending what you want. If you want just a straight ladder, if you want to put a bucket at the end. So they could range from $2 million to $3 million and beyond, depending on what we decide to go with. But it's going to depend on a lot of the construction and manufacturing, and these tariffs are what's going back and forth right now. So to give you a complete cost, it's difficult right now. We've met with a couple of distributors to talk about this, and even looking at possibly renting, and what that looks like, the cost for the leasing the aerial, and looking at older aerials. But when you buy an older aerial, that's what you end up. You might end up with more problems. So then there's equipment to put on the apparatus, which could range from 100 to 200,000, and then there's the maintenance cost. So the maintenance cost, 5 to 7,000 for your pump testing, your aerial testing, and then every 5 years you have to do what's called a non-destruction test, which is another 5,000. So you're looking at about 25,000 within a 5-year period for maintenance costs, and then you're training on top of that. So it's quite involved.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Craig. Craig, just with respect to the conversation with the garrison and the fact that Pembroke has similar needs, has there ever been a thought to pulling everybody together to look at a way that perhaps a cost sharing or something like that? I recognize there's some risk, some risk assessment that would have to be done and whatnot. If there are two parts at the same time, what's the likelihood of that? But anyways, I just thought I'd ask that question. If there's ever been a discussion to bring the players together and say, okay, listen, these are our needs. Can we work together? That way it mitigates the expense for just any one municipality. So just my thought. Thank you.
We did go that route, Deputy Mayor. We weren't successful, but we can revisit that for sure.
But just so I have that straight, the question was, could the garrison in the town of Petawawa, because it sounds like the garrison has an aging piece of equipment. So if they're buying a new one and we're buying a new one, it would make sense that we got together and shared one, which brings up the complication that if there's a fire up there and a fire down here at the same time, who gets to use it? So I guess that was the question, would we cost share? And I'll follow that up with a second question. I know we were unsuccessful getting a mutual aid agreement with Pembroke on their aerial. Is it worth going back again and asking again this year to see if that's a possibility?
That is something I could revisit for sure. Yeah.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Driscoll?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, just to touch on James's, what would be our plan to store this truck and if it's not going to fit in our vault right now?
That's a good question. I know there's one building in Petawawa that may house it, but depending on the length of the vehicle, we don't have any other plans to house it. Unless somebody knows where we could put a vehicle that's 40 feet long. The other thing that we considered is like putting an addition on Station 1. That was the aerial. The problem with Station 1 that we run into is like you only have a small back parking lot. The turning radius of an aerial is usually 45 to 47 feet. And we have a septic on one side, and we would have to build other front or expand the rear, which is going to be another cost. I don't have a cost for that. So those are kind of the things that we're throwing around. Now, if we're looking at buying a station, we could look at a 4-year window where once we get the plans built for the station, it usually takes about 3 years for the aerial, that we could purchase both and then hopefully get them at the same time when that aerial goes into that station. But that's kind of a risk that we would be taking.
Okay, thank you. That's definitely one thing that concerns me. This is the same situation that Pembroke Fire Department went through. They bought an aerial truck that didn't fit in their fire hall, which then forced them to build a new fire hall. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think we should be worried about building a station that can house everything we have right now. And then going from there, to be completely honest, if we never had a building over 4 stories, the next 5-10 years, it doesn't bother me in the least. We're dynamic by nature, and I don't the skyline of Petawawa being towering by buildings and not trees. And we don't have a developer yet that, even if we have one or two developers that want to build 5 or 6 stories, is adding an extra 40 units worth the cost of a $3 million vehicle. So that's where I come into the cost analysis back and forth. As of right now, I don't think that I have sufficient desire to spend the money on this when a new fire hall, I'm assuming we're $8 to $10 million minimum. We have Chris talking about a water plant expansion. We have recreation fodder expansions. Like, we have a lot of money coming due. And at some point, we can't pay for everything. So I think we concentrate on one thing first, be able to house something before we buy something that we can't house.
Other questions or comments? This is a hypothetical question, I guess. So if we were to have a developer that does want to build 6 stories, and they say they would like to do it now, as a council, we have the ability now to, because we changed our official plan, we took out the 4-story maximum. So we do have the ability to approve something like that. I guess the question would be for the fire chief, how comfortable would you be if council was presented with a plan to build 6 stories and we approved it? How comfortable would you be as a fire chief with your fire department to say, well, council has approved it, I'm okay with the fact that we have potential use of the garrison, potential use of the Pembroke aerial truck, that we could go ahead with a project like this, and it's okay.
I would have to reconvene with my team and look at this further. There would be a lot of moving parts, but what we would have to look at is put a plan in place that in the event that we did have a flagration fire, that what we would do, how we would attack it. And if we could get in agreements with our municipalities, our neighbors that have an aerial, definitely would have to revisit that. But we would have to up our fire inspections to make sure that the sprinklers the owners are complying with the fire code for sprinklers, protection, communication systems, standpipe systems. So making sure that the components of for fire safety is adhered to, and then look at how we would deal with a fire that size. And then we'd have to look at spatial separation with the buildings and make sure that they're far enough away from other buildings that we're not going to have exposures catch fire. So there's a lot of things that we would have to look at to make me comfortable to answer that council should go with the 6-story building. So as of right now, I'm not comfortable with it, not having that fire suppression special apparatus, but I would reconvene with my team and look and see how we could do this.
Okay, thanks. Any Councillor Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one more follow-up question for Melanie. With the non-combustible being allowed up to, let's say, 5 stories, can we have a bylaw that states that you have to have a non-combustible anytime you're over 4 stories to get a building permit in the town of Petawawa? And if so, you have adequate sprinkler protection, you have adequate areas of refuge within the building, that give you enough life safety time for fires. And like when we're talking 6 stories, if you picture even a 20-story, they don't make aerial trucks go to the roof of every building or the window of every building. They build buildings like this that you can access through areas of refuge and have proper fire separation. So is there something that we can put in our bylaw that would state you can make these buildings fire safe? If you want to build it, you can under these certain stipulations.
So we can't require anything more stringent than the Ontario Building Code. So the Ontario Building Code will stipulate, and that gets into what Craig is talking about. It allows up to 6 stories to be combustible materials. So I don't envision 10 or 20-story buildings in Petawawa either, but even just to get like 1 or 2 more stories, the building code allows combustible materials, and so we're in this catch-22. I did you know, we do have a couple developers that would go higher, and if they could, they would have to build underground parking to do that, to meet the parking requirements. I did commit to them that I would bring it up with council, so that's kind of behind this report as well. So I can say that I've fulfilled my promise to them to bring it forward, and you know, there's a lot to be asked.
And just for clarification, it's after 3 stories that sprinklers are required for the building code?
Like I said, there's tables with various factors that go into it. But for example, the apartment buildings by Boston Pizza, they're 3 stories, there's no sprinklers. Marriott has sprinklers, so it just kind of depends on the structure.
Further questions or comments? So we have a motion here, and it says the council receives this report for information, and the council acknowledges the need for aerial fire apparatus to facilitate approving more stories on future development proposals. So just the way it reads is just that council acknowledges that if we were to move forward, there may be a need for an aerial apparatus. So I don't think, I'm not sure what this motion is really saying. Should we separate the receive for information? Can we do that? And then we'll save the other part for when perhaps Melanie comes forward with a proposal from a developer that they would really like a 6-story building. And then we can deal with the rest of how's everybody feeling about that? Okay? Okay, so the motion is just really to receive this recorded in the motion. I need a motion. Don't you? Oh, just receive it.
Yeah, no, I would prefer.
You prefer one? Okay. Moved by Councilor Roots. Second by Councilor Driscoll. The council receives this report for information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? You get scared. Thanks a lot for bringing that forward. That was a good discussion. Okay, there's nothing for general matters, nothing to close. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Driscoll, second by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that the meeting adjourn at the call of the mayor. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.